Greetings and salutations, YouTubers. This is ZillaFan85. I'm back today doing my latest video. I'm doing a figure review. Today we are going to go ahead and take a look at my Hedorah Gashapon figure. So it's either Hedorah or Hedorah, whichever you prefer. I've always referred to him as Hedorah, so obviously that's what I'll be calling him here. So this version, this incarnation of Hedorah is, of course, the original 1971 version, so the Showa Hedorah from the film Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, or Godzilla vs. Hedorah, whichever title you prefer to call it. I usually refer to it as Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. So, this was definitely a review that I did want to get to, been meaning to do, so I'm glad I'm going ahead and getting this one out there today. Hedorah himself, I know a lot of fans do tend to really like him. For me, he's okay. He's not really one of my personal favorite kaiju. If he's one of yours, that's fine. More power to you, obviously. This is just my opinion. And the film itself, Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, was one of the, well, as a lot of people have noted, it's one of the very, very out there and strange Showa-era Godzilla films, and that's definitely saying a lot, because a lot of the Showa-era films are very out there, and that's usually one of the things that I really love about them. That's, again, as I've stated many times over, the Showa-era Godzilla films are my overall favorite of the entire series. So, but it's just this one was just very, very bizarre. Even for my standards, I guess you would say. That's not to say I didn't enjoy it. Like I said, there really, other than maybe that anime trilogy, there haven't been really too many Godzilla films that I really haven't, not liked, I should say. So, I do like it. It's just, as far as the Showa era goes, it's one of my lesser favorite ones. And kind of the same thing with Hedorah. But again, that's just my personal sentiment. He's definitely a very interesting monster, though, nonetheless. Obviously, created from that sort of almost like a symbiote from outer space, as it were, that crashed in the ocean and merged with the pollution in there to form the Smog Monster. So, as a sort of way to put it, anyways. So, it was an interesting, definitely an interesting concept, and he certainly is an interesting kaiju for sure. So anyway, though, let's go ahead and get right into the figure review itself. So again, this is the Gashapon figure. I do have, for the longest time, this was the only one that I personally owned of Hedorah as far as figures go. And then, a little while back, I went ahead and finally got a standard size one. I got the Bandai Creation one, which I'm definitely planning to review in the future. I just wanted to do the Gashapon figure first. So we'll go ahead, though, like I said, and start, as you guys may know, I usually start with the paint job. So for him, nothing too extreme here, but I gotta say, again, a Gashapon figure, and I think they captured his look very well. You can see right away with the paint, it's got that sort of grayish, silverish paint scheme all over for the main part of his body. You've even got some sort of almost like charcoal, like black highlights on certain points as well, like right there, for example, some other areas on his back and other parts of his body as well. And then, of course, you've also got other highlights like these reddish-brown highlights, like you can see on his hands and his feet, even a little bit on the tail. It's a little dusty, from sitting on my shelf, and I do the best I can to dust these off, but still it's hard to get them perfect. But again, though, you can see some of those other highlights as well. So you got some of the charcoalish black highlights and some of the reddish brownish highlights. So definitely looks really good. I think they certainly did capture his look there. On the top of his head, he's got that sort of like dome piece where he fired out that beam at Godzilla. And that's almost like a translucent purplish color, if if you guys can see that, if the camera will focus in for me. There we go. You guys can almost see that. It's almost a sort of translucent purple color there. It looks really cool, though. I definitely do like that. And then, of course, his eyes, which I think they did a nice job with. Certainly very indicative of Hedorah's look, you know, with the red eyes and the black and yellow pupils, as you can see there. That's very, like I said, very indicative of the way that that Hedorah looked in the film. So, so that pretty much does cover it for the paint job. Like I said, I think they did a pretty good job with that. And then, of course, the detail work, as we segue right into that. And again, I think they really did capture his look very well here. You can see all the roughness of his body, which is supposed to be like this sort of dried out sludge that makes up his skin, and you could see it like sort of like drooping down, you know, as it's drooped down and of course hardened up, so it doesn't completely droop to the ground as it looked in the film here. Obviously this based on his final form, or at least the final form that we saw in the film. So looks really cool. Again, got the tail, the detail work there with the sludge that sort of spreads out from it. And again, it's like a dried out sludge, I guess you would say. And then, of course, making up the feet there, and the hands, and all over the body, and the way it droops down in front of his face. Looks really good. And like I said, it's not just, you know, it's not just a simple detail work. They actually sculpted it very well. It's got very nice texturing to it. So you guys can pretty much pick that up on camera there as I'm showing it. And again, the way that the eyes look, captured that look very well. And again, the dome on the head, that's very pretty well indicative of his look in the film there. The only thing that's really missing is that sort of egg sac that's supposed to be on his back. So that's not really present. And the Bandai Creation one is pretty much the same. I believe the movie Monster series one that they did actually include that egg sac. But it's not really present here. Doesn't really matter to me too much. Doesn't really take away from the figure at all. At least in my opinion. I know some people will differ when they go over that, but for me, you know, I don't really mind it. So otherwise, though, like I said, I think they did a very nice job painting and detailing him and capturing the look of Hedorah. So that covers it pretty much for the paint and detail. Oops, sorry. The only other thing I was going to look at is articulation, but you know, this is a Gashapon figure, and as is the case in most cases with the Gashapon figures, there's really not any articulation on him. You've got several parts that go into place to put Hedorah together here, and they don't really not really meant to do much. I mean, you can kind of move the arms a little bit, but they're really just meant to fit into place, and if you do move them, they'll have a tendency to pop off or to not really line up correctly in the grooves. Same thing, you know, like with the tail and whatnot. So not really recommended to move it at all. So pretty much just to set it up and have it displayed and have, you know, a Hedorah in your collection. You know, either it's the only one or it's just, you know, a minifigure, since it's a Gashapon, to go along with, you know, maybe a standard size if you've got one. So that pretty much covers it. And you know, as you guys know, I usually don't mess with sizing other than maybe just a mention, you know, but again, this is a Gashapon figure, so it's a mini figure. This one in particular is probably about 3 inches or so tall, so as far as Gashapon figures go, it's actually got a nice little size to it, and you can kind of see it here, just the way that it looks. So definitely does look really nice on a shelf. If you're not inclined to pick up maybe the Bandai Creation or Bandai Movie Monster Series 1, or maybe, you know, not inclined to maybe get a more expensive brand, I think X Plus might have a Hedorah figure. I'm not 100% sure on that. But either way, you know, if you have one of those and you just want a minifigure, or you just don't want to deal with those and you just, maybe for shelf reasons or whatever, you just want to get, you know, the Gashapon version. Like I said, I think they did a very nice job with this Gashapon Hedorah. You can't go wrong with it. I was very happy to have it in my collection. And if I'm going to get a Hedorah, I'm going to get, the Showa Hedorah, because that's what I prefer anyway. In most cases, that's going to be the case. So the only other version, obviously, that we know of with him is the Final Wars version. But again, give me Showa era any day of the week. So, I know I spoke a little bit longer than I intended to for this video. It should have been a little bit quicker than this. I do apologize. But I think that does about cover it for this one, folks. This is, again, it's not expensive. It should be maybe $20 or less. You can find it on eBay in pretty good supply here, so it's a pretty common figure. So that's the one other thing I wanted to mention. But anyway, other than that, though, folks, this does pretty much wrap it up this time. I would definitely like to thank you so much for watching. If you would like to subscribe, please feel free to do so. If you would like to like and or comment on any of my videos, please feel free to do so as well. And just remember, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you be good to yourselves, and sayonara.